call, please. The Righteous Kitchen.
Pumpkin cheesecake for Thanksgiving. I am getting ready to demonstrate my pumpkin cheesecake recipe. You'll notice I have all the ingredients laid out. That's because I need these filling ingredients to be room temperature before I mix it. My base will be a ginger snap cookie. So I want to pulverize them into a fine crumb using the food processor. If you don't have a food processor, just smash these into a large Ziploc baggie using a rolling pin. Once they're into a fine crumb, just pour your butter in. I have a 9 by 3-inch springform pan. It's what I bake all of my cheesecakes in. Before I get my hands dirty, I'm going to grab a measuring cup. That's going to help me to press the crumbs into the bottom of this pan. So everything is mixed with butter. I'm going through here right now to check if there's any pieces that didn't get crumbled up. There's one. I'm going to just kind of spread this around evenly to the bottom of the pan, and then I want to start pressing it against the sides. Now here's where your measuring cup comes in. Right at the base, around the perimeter, get that really packed in there. Because when you're doing it with your hands, it just kind of bunches up right there. See how it's already looking more defined? Really press it with all your might. Okay, now get the rest of your base. Really press down. Because if I want to remove this from the base, I don't want it to crumble on me. Then I just kind of roll it and get that edge really good right around the perimeter. Okay, now I go around it one more time just to make sure my sides are good. The sides don't have to be perfect because we're going to trim them up later. That is your prepared crust. The crust is ready to go into a 350-degree oven for 7 minutes. While the crust bakes is the perfect time to get your filling ready. I have 4 blocks of cream cheese, room temperature. I'm using the paddle mixer. And I'm going to beat this until it's lump free. You want to scrape down your bowl. It's Scrape down the beater too. That's nice and smooth. Now, in a large bowl, I'm going to mix my dry ingredients. You want to whisk everything. You want to make sure that that flour is fully incorporated into the sugar. On low speed, I'm going to mix the sugar mixture into the cream cheese. Next is one 15-ounce can of pumpkin. And while I'm in here, I'll scrape down that cream cheese from the sides. Okay, we're gonna beat this until it combines. I'm going to mix my eggs one at a time. Give it one last scrape down. All right, that's all for that. Get this out of the way. All right, I'm going to clean up the beater. I'm going to scrape the sides. I'll give it another whisk. I want to just make sure everything is off the bottom of the mixing bowl. The last ingredient is optional, but I like to use it, and that's Watkins Imitation Pumpkin Spice Extract. Just pour that in. There's the filling. The crust has baked for 7 minutes. I reduced the oven down to 300 degrees. Okay, I'm using a butter knife, and I'm going to come in here. If there's any air bubbles, try to pop them out. Also, I want to make sure I press this all up to the sides of the crust so that no air gap will come in between the filling and the crust. Don't be tempted to wrap your cheesecake on the counter to get the air bubbles out. Remember, the crust is delicate. All right, this is going into a 300-degree oven until it sets in the center. That's going to take a couple of hours or so. Just before it looks like it's going to crack, it's going to puff up a little bit, but we don't want to overbake it to where it cracks. While the cheesecake is baking, that'll give me some time to do the decorating. Now, you don't have to decorate your cheesecake. You can just serve whipped cream to go with it. But it is for Thanksgiving, and I thought I would get a little festive with it. I am using white candy melts, and I'm just going to microwave them at 30-second intervals. Now to that, because I'm going to be adding coloring to this, I am going to add Crisco. And you probably might want measurements, so let's do this again. Okay, I have 1 cup candy melts and a good tablespoon of Crisco. I'm going to microwave this at 30-second intervals until it's almost melted. Okay, this has gone for about 2 minutes worth. So several rounds. It's not completely melted. You want it nice and smooth. All right, my design has some lettering. So I have it, that's my lettering. I'm going to put it face side down and a piece of parchment over it. If I pipe it backwards when it flips over, the chocolate that went on smooth at the bottom will be transferred smooth to the top. Now, my writing is going to be white, so I'm going to mix up that part. It's not going to take too much. And I colored it with a little bit of cinnamon. I'm going to mix the cinnamon. I'm using these small bottles to pipe with. And I'll go ahead and just follow my outline. Now see, I messed up there. The paper moved on me. I'm just gonna scrape that away. It doesn't matter if the letters are too close together because they come apart and I'm going to position them on the cheesecake. All right, so there's the first part. To this orange, I used Wilton's orange, but I'm gonna darken that up just a little bit with some red. I always use a toothpick when I go in here, and no double dipping into your food dye. If I want more color, I'll use another toothpick. I have a pan of warm water. Just before it gets to a boil, and I'm going to go ahead and keep my chocolates in there to stay a piping consistency. Before I use this to make a lighter color of orange, I need to clean it out, but I don't have to wash it and get it wet. I'm just going to dry it out. And I'll clean this part with a toothpick. Get that out of there. So that when I put the next color, it won't be so dark. All right, so I just need to pipe the outline for the pumpkins. So let's see if this is gonna, okay. And it doesn't have to be perfect because pumpkins aren't perfect anyway. Okay, with the orange, we're just going to go and flood. Use a little toothpick to get in there. Now this is the back, so we don't have to be too worried what the back looks like. Come in and make sure that. All right. I don't want to waste this. Let's see how I want to do this. See how that warm bowl of water kept everything at the right temperature. Need just a little bit of green. Just gonna try to free form it. I'm just gonna put a glob. And just kind of lay it down there. That'll work. I'll put a bigger glob for this one. That works. And a little tiny one for this one. Okay, that's great. All right, now I've got all this. This is starting to seize up on me, so I'm going to melt this just a little bit. Okay, this is going to start our leaves. Don't make it too thin. And we'll spread this out. Okay, so we have the lettering, we have the pumpkins, and the rest of the colors will be the leaves. All right, so that's the last of the leaves. On the leaves, I just take a paring knife and I just come in here and quickly make leaf shapes all over. You have to do this before it sets up. You won't be able to get them out once it gets solid. All right. When these chill, they'll come out. I'm gonna pop this in the refrigerator real quick. Now this piece broke a little bit. That's fine, you just lay it on there. It won't be a big deal. So that's what it's going to look like on the cheesecake. Let's go ahead and look at these leaves. And I'll go ahead and get a new piece of parchment. Let's see if we can just break these. See? They just break apart. These are enough leaves to get started. If I need more, I'll just melt that leftover chocolate and make more leaves. I just pulled my cheesecake from the oven. It baked for 2 hours and 5 minutes, and it's firm all the way across. What I'm going to do is let this set on the cooling rack until it comes to room temperature. After it comes to room temperature, I'll put it in the refrigerator to get completely chilled. Now, I do want to point out that I always bake my cheesecakes, or I just do typically all my baking on a tray. You'll notice that this cheesecake pan leaked. So all that butter, instead of going into the bottom of your oven and potentially causing a fire hazard, it's contained safely right here on the baking tray. So that's why you always, especially cheesecakes, because the pans do tend to leak. So bake on a tray, always. Another benefit is your oven will stay clean. So, okay, just let this cool. This cheesecake has been in the refrigerator a few hours. I typically let it stay in there overnight, but since I'm going to decorate this and put it in the freezer, I thought I would go ahead and get this video completed. To release the cheesecake, just slide a knife around the perimeter of the pan to loosen it, and then you'll unbuckle it. Get it all the way open. Make sure that it can move freely, and then just lift it. Now, I already did lift this. What you'll want to do, I am going to freeze this back into the pan. So go ahead and wash this pan. You want it really clean. All right. I have a layer of plastic wrap on here, and I want it pressed onto the cake. I want to protect the cheesecake and not drag any crumbs on it. At the same time, I'm going to go ahead and trim down any high spots of the crust. So right here, I see a spot. I'm going to take that plastic wrap right up to it and trim that away. So I'll just go around looking for any place that needs to be trimmed. Okay, now before I pull this back, I'm going to brush everything away. Now look it over and decide where you want the front of the cheesecake to be. All right, I've got my chocolate lettering. And I want to flip everything over so that I'll be able to place it correctly. The leaves, just scatter them all around. I noticed right here where this pumpkin is lifted up a little bit. I'm just going to put some chocolate underneath, if I could get it there. Pumpkin cheesecake for Thanksgiving. Okay, let's get this ready for the freezer. I put the ring back on it. Okay, we're going this way. I'll do the other side. Okay, this is all ready for the freezer. It'll make its debut on Thanksgiving Day.
Watching The Righteous Kitchen. Make sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.